We suffer from resentment. And believe it or not, we become enslaved to these things. We become slaves to these things.
Absolutely.
And Hebrew, being the dynamic language that it is, has a word that encompasses all of these things in a most dynamic way. And the Hebrew word for all these things is the Hebrew word for anger, but it also means sorrow and grief, depression. And it also means to be wroth or to have resentment, is ka'as. Ka'as.
How do you spell that translated?
Let me see. Well, ka'as, if I can find my dictionary. Huh?
K-A-S-S or C-H?
Ka'as.
With a K.
Okay. And here's the summit. My wife said that I hadn't taught anybody on, but there's a summit. Ka'as. Okay? It's interesting. If we take the ayin out of ka'as, okay, we take the ayin out, we're left with kus. And if we vowel it a certain way, kus means throne. Okay? First thing, when we get angry, have some form of negative emotion, depressed, we're feeling sorry for ourselves. We have resentment because somebody or something has stepped on our toes. What happens? Well, the ayin is out of the picture. We have no perception. We can't see the throne. Okay? Well, what's interesting is that these two words right here, these two letters right here, make up another word. And the word is kadi. Let's see. Kadilosu. There you go. Kadilosu. What it means is to cover up. If we take the ayin out, what do? We cover up our eyes. We cover up our eyes. And what happens when we cover up our eyes? Well, we certainly can't see the throne. But if we cover up our eyes, what do we see? We see darkness. We can no longer see the light. Okay? So, we are at a point of spiritual poverty. What has to happen? We can remain in a negative emotion, a point of spiritual poverty, or we can recognize that we're in a state of spiritual poverty and do something about it. Okay? We recognize we're in a state of spiritual poverty. And we go to Matthew, and it's somewhere in the notes, 5:3. Matthew 5:3, you have the Beatitudes. Okay? It says, blessed are the poor in spirit. For what? Theirs is the kingdom of heaven. When we recognize our spiritual poverty, God comes to us and helps us to overcome that spiritual poverty. How do we know? Because the next thing in line it says, blessed are those who mourn. And what happens to those who mourn? They shall be comforted. God comes and comforts them, right? Mm-hmm. The thing about the word blessed, it's from an Aramaic word. And I'm going to butcher this word. It's tuveahum. Tuveahum. And what tuveahum means is goodness towards you. So what is actually happening is not necessarily blessed are those in spirit who recognize their spiritual poverty, but goodness comes to those who recognize they're in spiritual poverty, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Good things come to those who mourn because they are comforted. That is the good thing that comes to us. We are comforted by God. What is the next thing? Good things come to those, blessed are those who are meek. What happens? when we mourn and we're comforted and somebody's comforting us, it's a very humbling thing. We are very humble in the fact that we're okay. We're going to be okay, and we're humbled by that. And what happens to the humble? What happens to the humble? They inherit what? The earth. Okay? To inherit the earth is to take back that you've lost. Okay? We take back what we've lost. What have we lost by feeling sorry for ourselves? What have we lost by having these negative emotions? Well, we've lost ground in the fact that we've become, as we said earlier, we've become enslaved to these negative emotions. We've become enslaved to the things, or the people, or things. Yeah, there's things that we can be resentful about. There's people that we can be